Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 244, a special Sunday edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
I'm the Reverend Peter Old, all the way from Canterbury, England. Today is Sunday, the 4th of September.
Okay, it's been a while since we've had Peter on the program. We have to go all the way back to Brexit to talk about the last time we spoke, and a lot's happened. Lots of rumors here. Let's take care of the real small stories, and I want you to, either agree or deny. I hear that a whole bunch of clergy are leaving the Church of England and joining an alternative entity over there, and I hear that you're in charge of it.
Untrue, but it made a great headline. No, we had a story earlier this week in the Telegraph about a shadow synod being hosted down my neck of the woods, actually, Canterbury, Rochester, Chichester sort of way. The Telegraph span it as they're planning to schism and leave the Church of England. Actually talked to the leader, Reverend Dr. Peter Sandlin. No such thing. They're just wanting to coordinate as evangelicals and conservatives how to better manage mission in this area.
Which has been done for hundreds of years. This is nothing new.
There is a particular issue in Rochester Diocese that they have a major financial crisis, which has been precipitated, I think, by just giving on money down a plug hole. So I can see their point. They want to meet, but obviously, bunch of vicars meet to tell people about Jesus isn't a story. Bunch of vicars meet to split off from the Church of England is a story. So that's what the headline was, even though that's not the story.
Okay, there's a new story that came out in the Church of England. I guess the Guardian covered this. You and I have talked before about there are at least one or two bishops in the Church of England who are in gay relationships, but it's undercover. Nobody really knows. You knew. Apparently I knew. And all of a sudden the paper says we are going to expose this person just so we can finally get this out on the table. But they're not really allowed to. There's no freedom of press at that level in England.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We discussed this person, Bishop Nick Chamberlain. We discussed this person privately, didn't we, Kevin? A year ago when he got appointed as a suffragan bishop and of Grantham. And I said to you privately, he's gay, and I think he does have a partner as well. And I think it's really interesting how that's gone under the radar. Well, lo and behold, in the Guardian on Friday night on the website, we got the news that he's basically outed himself. He's sort of come out, and the reason he's done this is because a major Sunday newspaper was planning to name him on today, and that was accompanying the letter that has just been published from the 8 priests in a same-sex marriage, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't think that any newspaper in the UK will get away with outing someone. So my understanding is that what happened was something around the fact that the journalist would have gone to the bishop and said, look, we're going to do a story about there being a gay bishop in a partnership on Sunday, and it's you. Do you want to talk to us about it? Right? And if you don't, we're not going to name you, because we can't do that, because that's naughty, and we're just not allowed to out people. That we would just sort of talk about there being one to accompany the letter. Well, it looks as though the Bishop of Grantham did the right thing, spoke to Lambeth Palace. Lambeth Palace got the PR people in tune, and they basically gave the whole story to the Guardian. If I was the journalist who'd been working on the scoop, I'd be pretty hacked off about it. But fair play to the Church of England media team, particularly Aaron Aurora, who heads it up. This seems to be a textbook PR operation. So they set up the interview with the Guardian, set it to come out to feed into the evening's news agenda, to give them at least a day and a half's lead before the letter that's been published this morning, to kind of have a bit of distance and so on. And it also seems that the bishops and senior church leaders have been given a pretty clear steer on basically, mum's the word, you don't comment about this, let's just keep it,
In fact, I would have to say you're the only Church of England entity that has spoken on this up to this point. That there have been a few people on blog posts, but
because if you looked at my Twitter and Facebook feed yesterday, it's just full of stuff, and it's full of it's full of people who don't understand what's going on. But it's also, I have to say, and you know me, I try to avoid imitating the conservatives, don't I? It's full of some very naive conservatives who want more information. Exactly how is this relationship celibate? And this is now the thin end of the wedge and all the kinds of, and you go, actually, Nicholas Chamberlain says that he's celibate. By all accounts, this relationship has always been celibate. He's never really made a big public fuss about his sexuality or about wanting to change it. I think he's spoken once or twice at some sort of semi-private meetings about it, right? So compare that to Jeffrey John, who wrote books about the subject, who was in the vanguard, who famously, in terms of his sex life with his partner, was now celibate but hadn't been in the past and was unrepentant for that. Completely different situation. And I think I think politically, conservatives need to think, what is the line in the sand? What is the ditch to die in? And a celibate gay bishop is not the ditch to die in. It's not. It's the wrong place.
What is the Bishop of Graham's official statement on this? Yes, I am homosexual. No, I do not have sex with a partner with whom I am within a relationship with.
Yeah.
Correct.
He's sexually abstinent. Yeah.
Okay. It's at this point, we want to, well, we don't, but the church needs to start looking at definitions of relationship, definitions of sex, stuff like that. I mean, this is going to be a very transparent moment for the church.
I think what's really interesting about this is that if we just let the dust settle on this, because obviously the House of Bishops now have to meet to decide how we're moving forward to Church of England on homosexuality per se. If we just let the dust settle and let us all just be comfortable with this idea, right, of Bishop of Graham, at that point we can then start and have a conversation and say, so what exactly do we mean by celibacy or sexually abstinent? What is, and is there such a thing as celibacy and immoral celibacy? So ultimately, the question I'd like to ask is, if I'm sexually abstinent because the church rules tell me to, but if I knew that tomorrow the rules would change and that I could have sex, if I wanted to do that, then really I'm not sexually abstinent at all, because I'm still desiring to have sex. I'm still I still want to do that. So Jesus is, in Matthew 5, after the Beatitudes and going on the Mount, addresses this, right? So, what is sin? Is sin actually having sex, or sin wanting to have the sex? And Jesus is very clear. If you just look at somebody lustfully, you've committed adultery. If you just want to have sex and desire it and nurture that desire, you're having sex. It's as though you are having sex. So you couldn't be. So here's the interesting thing. Celibacy really means a commitment to sexual abstinence, regardless. Sexual abstinence just simply means at the moment I'm not having sex. So he is. It'd be interesting to ask him, though. I don't think you would get an answer. It'd be interesting to answer him on that definition. Are you sexually abstinent or celibate?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're talking about the office of bishop. And the office of bishop in the New Testament is held to a much higher standard than with which lay people and clergy operate, and you have to be above the fray. Is
And
this
yeah,
is this in all evidence above the fray? And we just saw a response from GAFCON, and they're like, we're not convinced this is working. Convince us.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it was not a bad. It was not a, oh my gosh, get this guy out of the church. It's, hey, we got a new transparency. You guys told us what's going on. Thank you for the honesty. Convince us this can work.
Well, that's good. And we need to see if the Church of England sort of official way responds. Another interesting thing about this revelation is that it makes sense now of the issuing and then the reissuing in 2013 and then 2015 of the guidelines to the nominations commission on around clergy in divorce, clergy in same-sex relationships, clergy in civil partnerships, and so on. Because the 2013 release of that document, which was dated much earlier, was very much centered around clergy in civil partnerships and focus of unions and of a unity and so on, clearly geared to avoid appointing Geoffrey John as a bishop.
Correct. Yes.
There's a second version issued in March 2015, which labours very much on a priest's previous statements and previous public attitudes and all those kind of things, and how have they made a fuss and so on. And now it's very clear that is geared towards allowing someone like Nicholas Chamberlain to be appointed, and perhaps somebody else.
Yeah. My earpiece gave out, and who would that be?
Well, I'm not going to out.
No, but
I don't think this is I don't think this is the last that we will hear.
I don't think this is the last, but I think this is a great tool, this revelation, for conservatives in the Church of England to say, okay, we have a gay bishop, and the standard now for this in the church is absolute celibacy. According to the Bishop of Graham, he is celibate, and we will expect no less from a priest or a bishop or a layperson in our church if you're seeking leadership than to be
that's an interesting way forward. I think for conservatives this is actually rather useful, but we need to really think about what we do and don't want to achieve from this. And whatever we do, it needs to be done really graciously. And I have to say, Friday night and on Saturday on social media, I've seen some graciousness, and I've seen some really ungraceful behaviour and posturing that isn't helping us. We have a crunch point coming in the Church of England, right? So the letter this morning from the clergy in a same-sex marriage to the House of Bishops, trying to influence them as they decide what they're going to bring to General Synod in the new year, if they are going to bring anything. And we're entering now a politically very dangerous stage, right? Where we've already seen in the last 48 hours two things which are attempting to shift the agenda, which are probably linked as well. I have no doubts that the name of the Bishop of Grantham was given to the newspapers to accompany this letter, right? I've no doubt about that whatsoever. So we're seeing people trying to play games around this, and I think we just need to be very careful about what we actually do, and how we approach this. And it's best to actually, I'm reading, some of the liberal Facebook pages that aren't private and that they're open, and some of them are being very critical of Nicholas Chamberlain. Why isn't he speaking out for us? Why isn't he blah blah blah? And so let them make the mistakes. And I've spoken to a few bishops, and they really don't like being told what to do. So let's try not to tell them what to do, Let's try and help them ask the questions that they need to be asking.
are you saying that the Bishop of Graham is a victim in this?
I think he's a victim.
Okay.
I think he was quietly getting along with his sexually abstinent life, trying to serve East Lincolnshire, and he's been. I think he's been used, and I think there are more bishops who are going to be used, and it's a crying shame. And the first thing that we always have to say is this is wrong to attempt to out a bishop. But unfortunately, some of the liberal groups have a habit of doing this, whether deliberately or just through foolishness.
Indeed. Well, Peter, what's that?
Do you want to talk about the letter briefly?
That one that's in the paper this morning? Sure, let's talk about that one.
A lot of fuss. Andrew Fortune Kane on social media has been flagging up for a week or two that he's getting a letter together with signatures from priests in the Church of England who are in same-sex marriages, and that letter is now out. It's what we expected. It's we want to pray for you and help you, and we want you to somehow recognise us and not sideline us. But when you look at the list of names, there are 8 names and 6 anonymous. Well, we just shift the anonymous, that they don't count, right? They don't count. You've got to tell me the name, otherwise I'm not interested. Okay? It's just hearsay. So of the 8, we've got Andrew Fortune Kane, we've got a guy who hasn't held a PTO or a license in the Church of England for a decade, I think, or more. We have 3 or 4 people who are retired. We have one person who is and then we have only one other incumbent, as it were. So really, it's a damp squib. It's not an impressive list of names. It's not a really dynamic force. It's not like there are 50.
Well, I'm looking through the names, and some of the clergy that we know are non-celibate homosexual people are not on here. And so it's not a complete list.
No, and that's interesting itself, isn't it? But we got retired clergy who've already been disciplined in places. We've got, it's. I was expecting like 20, 30. I mean, that would be like, 20, 30 people standing up. That would be a news story. Just 1 or 2 extra. It's just dribs and drabs, And here's the thing now. Take the chap who's the incumbent. I think he's either he's on the fringes of Manchester Diocese or Chester Diocese. I haven't looked it up yet, right? But his bishops now will have to admonish him, and he'll have to go onto the list. And so he's basically, I think he's near retirement anyway, so he probably doesn't care. But let's say he's in Manchester Diocese. He's forcing the Bishop of Manchester, who's a liberal, to discipline him. What's it achieve?
I don't know. Some people think something.
It's a political tool. If you wanted to write to them and say to them, we want to pray for you and be part of the process, please talk to us, we will explain to you our stories and so on. Then write to them privately. People write to the House Bishops privately all the time, and the House Bishops talk to them, and that happens. To make the letter public is a political act. To link into it the outing of a partnered gay bishop, right, is a really political act, and I think that's going to backfire. I think the whole thing together, I've already spoken to one bishop who is just, in a sense, really hacked off.
Well, would you suggest in the future the Church of England, when they come across this type of situation, be more transparent before the news comes out? Because we've learned from the liberal press in Britain and the factions that exist that it's going to come out. There are no secrets. Would it not be more helpful to say, listen, this is the situation. Can you just be with us as we try to see if it works?
I would love to see that, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And to be honest, I don't think Nicholas Chamberlain was doing anything wrong. by all accounts, he was very, very open through his entire preferment process, right? So it's not like he was hiding, not like he's been hypocritical or any of these things, and unless somebody can give me that evidence, right? He's always been sexually abstinent. I don't think he was doing anything wrong, just keeping himself. As I say, a lot of people in the church knew. We were talking about it a year ago. But obviously we didn't broadcast it on Anglican unscripted for the very reason I've just complained about now, that outing people is just not the kind of thing that you do, right?
So, it's not the kind of thing we do, but there are laws that that apply to journalists in the UK that don't apply to journalism here in America. Try and Google Elton John here in America and Google Elton John in the UK, and you're going to find somebody who wears a halo in the UK and somebody who had a big lawsuit in America. It's weird.
We had some at the time of all that. We had some fantastic stuff in the tabloids here.
Yeah,
and they would basically run stories about Elton John and David Furnish.
Wow.
And they would at the end they would do a whole paragraph about, aren't they lovely, wonderful, faithful family men? I'm not going to say anything more about that, okay? Because I still live in Britain. Okay?
Sure, that's right.
That's and for those who knew what the story was, that was hilarious.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. We're running up here on 21 minutes. We've just taken a lot of time from a lot of our viewers, and we appreciate that very much. Keep Peter, George, myself, and Alan, and all the contributors of Anglican Unscripted in your prayers, and we will catch you soon. I'm Kevin Carlson.
I'm the Reverend Peter Old. Farewell.
And you've been watching Anglican Unscripted, episode 245.